Cameron Campana, C-A-M-E-R-O-N, Campana, C-A-M-P-A-N-A.
May I inquire, sir? Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
If you would, again, please introduce yourself to the jury and state your name.
Cameron Campana,
Mr. Campana, how old are you?
23 years old.
Do you currently live in the state of Florida?
No, I live in Cleveland, Ohio.
I'm sorry?
Cleveland, Ohio.
At some point, did you live in Florida?
Yes, I attended college in Orlando.
When did you attend college here in Orlando?
August 2007 to February 2009 at Full Sail University.
Can you tell the jury what Full Sail University is?
It's a media arts school. I attended for recording production of music and music business.
Is that a two-year school or a four-year school?
It's an accelerated pace. It's one-year programs for your associates and a 10-month program for your bachelor's.
Mr. Campana, can I ask you to maybe speak up just a little bit?
Okay.
Thank you. How many years did you attend Full Sail?
2007 to 2009, about almost 3 years.
Did you graduate from Full Sail?
Yes, I graduated.
And what type of degree do you get from Full Sail?
Bachelor's of Science in Music Business.
What are you currently doing for a living?
I'm a club promoter for an entertainment company in Cleveland.
Is that in line with the education that you received?
Yes.
Back when you attended Full Sail, starting in August of 2007, where did you live?
Sutton Place Apartments.
Do you know the address there?
3834. I forget which apartment number.
Okay. When you lived there, with whom did you live?
What was that?
Who did you live with?
Anthony Lazaro.
Let's talk a little bit about the apartment. How big was the apartment?
It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. I want to say it was about maybe 1,000 square feet altogether.
And when you first moved in, you lived with Tony Lazaro?
Yes.
At some point, did you have other roommates?
Yes. Roy House stayed with us briefly, and then Nathan Lezniewicz.
Okay. Let's talk about Mr. House first. When did Mr. House first start living in your apartment?
I believe it was November of 2007.
And how long did he stay?
Till about June 2008.
You said this was a 2-bedroom apartment?
Yes.
While Mr. House was staying with you, where did he sleep?
On the couch in the living room.
No. Was this a couch that pulled out into a bed?
No.
All right. He just slept on the couch?
Yeah.
You also mentioned a Nathan Lezniewicz?
Yes.
When did he live with you at the Sutton Place apartment?
It was towards the end of May. I believe around May 25th or 26th he moved in.
And how long did he stay?
Until our lease was up in August 2008.
So at one point you had 4 men living in this apartment.
Yes.
What were the sleeping arrangements during this time? Where did everybody sleep?
Nate took the couch, and then Roy took the floor until he found his own apartment.
Was he looking for an apartment during this time?
Yes.
Directing your attention to May and June and July of 2008, can you tell the jury what your school schedule was?
We were on a rapid schedule. I was pretty much going to school either 9 to 5 or 1 to 9. It changed every month.
It changed every month?
Yes.
Do you have any specific recollection of what your hours were at school during the month of May of 2008?
I want to say 9 to 5. I know June was 1 to 9.
Okay. So
Approach.
may I continue, sir?
Just a second.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Campana, going back to June of 2008, you believe your school schedule was 1 to 9.
Yes.
Did your classes or your education also entail you working in any way?
No.
So after you went to classes from 1 to 9, you were done?
Yes.
Do you recall Mr. Lesniewicz's school schedule during June of 2008?
I believe it was 9 to 5. I'm not 100% sure though.
Did you take classes with him during this time?
We were on different schedules in different months because I had taken time off and had to retake classes.
Okay. How about Mr. Lazaro?
We started at the same time, and he never had to retake classes or anything, so he got ahead of me. But we were on different schedules this same months, usually.
Sir, directing your attention to the end of May, beginning of June of 2008, did you have the occasion to meet Caylee Anthony?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury the circumstances by which you came to meet her?
Excuse
How
me?
you met her?
I met her through my roommate, Anthony Lazaro, after a birthday party for a friend, Daniel Howard.
Do you remember when that party was?
I believe it was May 24th, or around that date. That's when his birthday was.
And Mr. Howard is a friend of yours? What is or was a friend of yours?
Yes, he was a mutual friend with all of us.
When you first met Ms. Anthony, can you tell the jury how she appeared, what her demeanor was?
She was, just a regular 22-year-old girl, happy. Just seemed like, normal and just your average 22-year-old.
Okay. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah. No.
Subsequent to that birthday party, did you have the occasion to see Caylee Anthony again?
After, yes.
Okay. Can you tell the jury the period after that birthday party? Strike that. Let's go to this question. At some point, did Ms. Anthony start staying with you on a regular basis?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall when that was?
I want to say the middle of June
Of 2008.
or towards the end of June. Yeah.
Okay.
It was June 2008, I know.
All right. Prior to that period of time when the defendant was more or less staying with you, how many times do you believe you may have seen Ms. Anthony on a social basis?
On social basis?
Yeah.
Inside the apartment or outside?
Let's do both.
I would see her daily once she started staying with us inside the apartment. Outside of the apartment, maybe 2 or 3 times.
The 2 or 3 times that you saw the defendant, were you aware that she had a daughter?
Yes.
Do you know the daughter's name?
Caylee.
Okay. How many times have you met Caylee?
About 4 times, maybe 3.
When you saw Caylee Anthony, where would you see her?
Either in Anthony Lazaro's room with Casey or in the living room watching TV.
During this time period that you saw Caylee Anthony at your apartment with the defendant, did they, meaning Ms. Anthony and Caylee, ever spend the night?
Not together.
I'm sorry, what do you mean not together? Did they or did they not spend the night?
Casey did. Not Caylee never spent the night at the apartment.
All right, so Caylee never spent the night over at your apartment?
No.
When you first met Ms. Anthony, did you ever have any discussions with her about her employment?
She had mentioned to us that she had worked for Universal as an event coordinator.
Was that your understanding that was her job, or she used to work there?
That's what I understood that was her job.
All right. Did she talk about her job?
Every now and then, just brief little things. I don't know specifics, but she had mentioned like picking up tickets for a Batman premiere for The Dark Knight, and just like other little things, saying work is stressing me out and such like that.
That work was stressing her out?
Yeah.
You mentioned something about a Batman premiere?
Yes.
What did Ms. Anthony say about that?
She had told my roommate Anthony Lazaro that she was going to get red carpet tickets for the premiere, and it never happened.
Statement of the defendant, Your Honor. It goes to her state of mind.
Overruled.
I believe he's referring to a statement by Anthony Lazaro.
Sir, are you talking about what the defendant told you or Mr. Lazaro?
About the Batman ticket?
Yes.
I've heard that
No. You heard that from whom?
from Anthony Lazaro.
Okay. If that was from Mr. Lazaro,
I apologize.
objection sustained.
Yes, sir. You had mentioned a few minutes ago that at one point Ms. Anthony started staying with you on a regular basis. Is that correct?
Yes.
And again, when would that have been?
Object to the leading questions as well, Judge.
Sustained as to the last question.
Did Ms. Anthony begin staying with you in your apartment?
Yes.
When was that?
Some point towards the end of June. Mid-June to end June.
Was this something that you had talked to Mr. Lazaro about? That she was going to be moving in?
No.
Was this something that you had spoken to the defendant about?
No.
Objection, Judge. Also speculation.
Overruled.
When she started staying at your apartment, was there any understanding that you're aware of about how long she was going to stay?
No, she had told us that she was looking for an apartment with, I believe it was Amy.
Had you ever met Amy?
I believe once.
But when she first started staying there, did you know who Amy was?
No.
Now, you went to school this time from the periods of 1 to 9 in June, correct?
Mhm.
Did you-
Yes.
During the time that you were with the defendant, did you ever see her getting ready to go to work?
No.
Tell us about when when she started living with you, did you ever see Caylee again?
I believe once, and I can't be 100% positive about that.
Did she ever tell you during the subsequent weeks where Caylee was?
We have asked, and one time she said that she was going to Universal with the nanny. Then another time was the nanny was taking her to Cocoa Beach for a friend's son's birthday party.
Did the defendant ever appear anxious about seeing her daughter?
Sometimes. She would say that she talked to Caylee on the phone and that she was excited. Other than that, I don't think so.
During the time frames that she was living with you and your roommates, did you ever hear her on the phone purportedly talking to her daughter?
No.
Did you ever hear her talking purportedly to the nanny?
No.
Did she talk on the phone while she lived with you?
She would, but she would always step outside and have a conversation.
Could you see her walking around outside?
I would see her walk around the little pond in the back.
There's a pond in the back of the apartment?
Behind the apartment. If you were standing on our balcony, you could see it from there.
And then would she come back to the apartment?
Yes.
When she came back to the apartment, would she relate to you with whom she was speaking?
One time,
What did
she
she
said
say?
she was speaking to her mother, and that I asked her why she always goes outside, and she said that was because it's her time to vent.
It was what?
It was her time to vent.
Did she ever tell you what those arguments or what those discussions were about?
No.
While Ms. Anthony was living with you, how were you guys who was doing the cooking?
I mean, everyone would do their part, but once she started staying on a regular basis, she started cooking dinner and buying groceries.
Would she ever ask you if anybody needed anything at the store?
Yes.
And would she return with those items?
Yes.
Did she ever do laundry?
Yes.
Whose laundry did she do?
Mostly hers.
Objection, Judge Rollins.
Relevancy?
Your Honor, it's relevant to her state of mind and her conduct during this time period. May we approach?
Overrule at this point.
Thank you, sir. You can continue.
It was mostly her laundry, sometimes Anthony's, Lazaro's, and I believe one time she even didn't mind.
Did you ask her to?
No.
What about cleaning the apartment? Who cleaned the apartment?
She helped clean. We all helped keep it.
Again, Rollins.
Your Honor,
Overrule?
We'd all take part in cleaning, but she would help clean more often.
as part of your studies at Full Sail, did you have a computer?
Yes.
What type of computer did you have?
Apple MacBook Pro.
Was that given to you by the school?
Yeah, it was a package deal that we could get with classes.
To your knowledge, did your roommates also have computers?
Yes, we all had Apple MacBook Pros.
Did you ever see the defendant with a computer?
Yes.
What type of computer did she have?
I'm not sure the brand, but it was a PC laptop.
While she was living with you, did you see her using that laptop?
Yes.
Did you ever use her laptop?
No.
To your knowledge, did she ever ask to borrow your computer?
No.
To your knowledge, did she ever ask to borrow anybody else's?
No.
So during this time period that the defendant was living with you, can you describe to the jury what her general demeanor was?
She just seemed just the same. Nothing had changed. She was happy. She seemed, excited about life. Just.
Did you ever socialize with the defendant outside of the apartment?
I believe that one or two times.
Where would that have been?
Excuse me.
Where would that have been?
Once at one of my friend's apartments that her and Tony stopped by at, and I can't be positive about the second time.
Have you ever heard of the Fusion Ultra Lounge?
Yes.
What is that?
It was a restaurant / club lounge that served food and had nightlife at night.
I'm sorry?
They would have nightlife events at night.
To your knowledge, have you ever spent any time with the defendant at that particular club?
No.
Objection, Judge. Overruled.
Overrule.
Oh, it's Judge.
Thank you. All right. During this time period, did you drink alcohol?
Yes.
While you were at the apartment, did the defendant ever drink with you?
No.
How about outside of the apartment?
I've seen her. I never saw her, but she would come home sometimes and would be drunk. I think it was just like one time I saw her come back.
Have you ever been to have you ever met George or Cindy Anthony?
No.
Had you ever been over to George or Cindy Anthony's home?
No.
While she was living with you, did you ever see any article of clothing that belonged to Caylee?
Only stuff that she would bring over if she brought her over in the morning, like a swimsuit, because we had a pool.
And that's when you actually saw Caylee, correct?
Yes.
How about after she started living with you, did you ever see any article of clothing belonging to Caylee?
Not that I saw.
Any toys?
Maybe a book. I think there was a book, a Pink Panther video too.
This was while she was living with you?
I believe so.
All right. Any stuffed animals?
No.
During the time period that she was living with you, did she ever tell you that her daughter was missing?
No.
Did she ever tell you that her daughter had been kidnapped?
No.
Did she ever tell you that while you were out in classes, she was out looking for her daughter?
No.
Did she at any time ever ask you for any help in trying to find her daughter?
No.
Are you aware of an incident, without going into any detail, are you aware of an incident on July 15th when the defendant's mother came to your apartment?
I had class till 9. I got home and Anthony and Nathan had told me what had happened.
Okay. Were,
Somebody else told you.
right. I'm not
Well,
gonna
I
ask
came
you-
home and,
You were not home when any of that may have happened?
excuse me?
You were not at home when any of that
No.
may have happened?
I wasn't home.
Did you have the occasion to meet Lee Anthony later on that night?
Yes.
And had you ever met him before?
No.
And when he came over, did you say anything to him?
I just told him I was sorry to hear about what happened, and if there's anything that we can do, we'll help.
What can you tell the jury about Lee's demeanor when you saw him that night?
He seemed calm, but at the same time, he was worried.
Did you give him any items that belonged to the defendant that night?
He came and picked up a bag of clothes that Casey had in Anthony's room.
Did you actually witness him take those items or that bag out of the apartment?
Yes.
Did you have any other contact with the defendant after that night?
No.
Did you have any other contact with Lee Anthony after that night?
No.
I have 1 second, Judge. Thank you very much, sir. I have no further questions. Thank you, Judge.
Cross-examination.
Mr. George. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Campana, is it?
Campana.
Campana. Were you in Casey's home on June 16, 2008 when Caylee drowned?
No.
No further questions.
Folks, was your microphone on, Mr. George? I cannot hear you, sir, so it's not on the record. You can cut your microphones off, but as I told y'all in the back, I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry, sir.
And the court reporter cannot hear you.
The question was assuming facts, not in evidence. We'd ask that the question be struck.
Overruled.
I have no further questions.
May the witness stand down. Thank you, sir. State may call their next witness.
Thank you, Judge. State, we call Nathan Lezniewicz.
My name is Nathan Lezniewicz, NathanLezniewicz.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
How are you?
Not too bad.
Am I pronouncing your name correctly as Lezniewicz?
Lezniewicz.
Lezniewicz. Sorry about that. Good morning, sir. Where do you currently live in Florida?
Yes, sir.
Where do you live?
I live in Fort Pierce.
How long have you lived there?
I grew up there, and I moved back about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Was there a time period where you lived in Orlando?
Yes, sir.
When did you live here in Orlando?
2007 to 2009.
Why?
I was going to school at Full Sail University.
We heard a little bit about Full Sail, but what were you doing at Full Sail?
I was going to school for audio engineering.
For audio engineering?
Yep.
How long did you attend Full Sail?
For a year and a half.
While you were at Full Sail, did you obtain any type of degree?
No, sir.
And can you tell the jury what you're doing now?
I currently play in a band called Kaya Vibe out of Vero Beach. I play in a band. I'm a musician. Kaya Vibe.
What do you play?
I play keyboard and percussion.
Did you also play in bands or while you attended Full Sail?
Yes, sir.
While you were attending Full Sail, where did you live?
I lived at Sutton Place with Tony and Cameron.
Tony, what's his last name?
Lazaro
And-
and Cameron Campana.
When did you first start living with Mr. Lazaro?
The end of May in 2008, I believe 2008.
All right. When you moved in with Mr. Lazaro, where did you sleep?
I slept on the couch.
How long were you planning on staying?
About a month and a half until their lease ended. My original lease had ended, and then Tony and me and another gentleman were going to move into another apartment starting when Tony's lease ended there at Sutton Place.
So you were just kind of buying time until.
You're right, until Tony's lease was up.
All right. Did you attend classes with Mr. Lazaro
Yes, I did.
during this time period?
Not during this time period, no.
During the time period of, let's go with the end of May, June, and July of 2008, do you recall what your school schedule was?
I believe my school schedule for the month of June was 9 to 5.
Did you work outside of going to school?
I was a musician. I traveled with my band playing.
Did you have performances to give during this time period?
Yes, sir.
Did you perform locally or did you leave town?
All over the place. I'd leave town a lot.
All right. Did there come a time during this time period of May, June 2008 where you met Caylee Anthony?
Yes, sir.
How did you first meet Ms. Anthony?
The drummer for my band, Daniel Howard, he was having a birthday party on, I believe it was May 24th, and that's where Tony and Caylee first met, and that's where I also met Caylee.
What can you tell the jury about your first impressions or how the defendant was acting when you first met her?
Seemed like just, like a normal 21, 22-year-old girl. I mean, she seemed fine. She was outgoing. She was talkative.
How did she and Tony appear to get along?
They seemed to get along great.
Were you aware at that first meeting that the defendant had a daughter?
No, not at first. No, sir.
When did you first become aware that the defendant had a daughter?
It had to be very shortly thereafter, probably in the next week or two to follow. Probably the next few days, actually.
Did you ever meet her daughter?
Yes, I did.
What was her name?
Her name is Caylee.
Where did you meet Caylee?
At my apartment.
How many times in all do you think you've seen Caylee Anthony?
2 to 3 times.
During this time period, when you first met the defendant and she came over to your apartment with her daughter, did she ever spend the night?
Did Caylee ever spend the night, or did Caylee ever spend the night?
Both together?
No, sir.
Did there come a time where the defendant started spending more time at your apartment?
Yes, sir.
Did there come a time when she basically stayed every day?
Yes, sir.
When was that?
Approximately the 3rd and 4th week of June was when her staying over picked up quite a bit.
I take it you've had conversations with the defendant while she stayed with you?
Yes, sir.
Times. Did she ever tell you anything about her employment?
She said that she was employed at Universal Studios.
Did she tell you what she did at Universal Studios?
Event coordination, event planning, event coordination.
Did you ever see any IDs, like an ID badge or anything that would tell you that she worked at Universal?
No, sir.
Did she ever talk about her work?
Every once in a while.
Okay. What would she tell you about her work?
The only thing that we had ever talked about was a Batman premiere that was coming up when Batman first came out.
What about a Batman premiere?
that Universal was doing a premiere and that she could get some tickets for some of the other guys in the apartment there that were interested in going.
Okay. Were you interested in going?
If there was a ticket available, I would go.
Was there a ticket available?
Relevancy?
Your Honor, it goes to the defendant's state of mind.
Sustain.
Other than that, would she ever complain about her work?
No, sir.
I believe you said that during this time period, you were going to classes from 9 to 5.
Yes, sir.
While you were getting ready to go to school, did you ever observe the defendant getting ready to go to work?
I mean, she'd get ready. I mean, she would leave when we would leave in the morning. I just naturally assumed that was where she was heading, was to work.
And would you come right, or usually come straight home from your classes back to the apartment?
It all depends.
To your knowledge, did the defendant have a key to that apartment?
No, sir.
Were there times that you would come home from class or after your day that the defendant was there?
And the defendant was there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Did you spend time alone with her while her boyfriend was
Yes,
out
sir.
at school or whatever?
Yes, sir.
All right. What did you guys do?
Hang out, watch TV. I mean, you know, it's with Full Sail, with the way the schedule works, everyone's in transition all the time. People are constantly coming and going. You're home for a few hours to maybe eat, get a couple hours sleep or watch TV, and then you're right back at lab or back in class again for the afternoon or evening.
Was the defendant easy to talk to?
Yes, sir.
Was she, how would you describe this time period while she was living with you, her demeanor?
Seemed normal, you know, happy, like, you know, everything was fine. I didn't notice any, you know, nothing caught my eye as far as her personality or mood swings or anything like that.
Now, you had testified a few minutes ago that you had seen Caylee Anthony approximately 2 to 3 times.
Yes, sir.
When she started living or staying for extended periods of time at your apartment, did you ever see Caylee?
No, sir.
Did that ever seem odd to you?
It did. I didn't pay too much attention to it. Cameron Campana and I had a conversation about it, I think once or twice, you know, like that, just that we hadn't seen Caylee around in a couple of weeks.
Did you ever ask the defendant where Caylee was?
Yes, sir, I did.
What did she tell you?
That she was at that time that she was at Disney World with the nanny and that they were going to Cocoa to the beach the following day.
Were you ever told any other places where Caylee was?
Just typically that she was with the nanny and they were out doing various things. I mean, it was summertime. Didn't really raise a flag to anyone. It seemed like a typical summertime things to do.
Was there anything about the defendant's demeanor when she told you where Caylee was that made you worried,
No, sir.
that made you question what she was telling you?
No, sir.
While the defendant was living with you, did she ever tell you anything about her parents?
Not much, sir, no.
You say not much. What do you recall her saying?
When her and her mother would have phone conversations, she would leave the apartment to have those conversations because she said from time to time that they would get into arguments on the phone and she didn't want us to have to listen to them argue on the phone.
Did you ever hear an argument that the defendant had with anybody on the phone?
No, sir.
Did you ever hear her speaking purportedly to her daughter on the phone?
No, sir.
Did you ever hear her speaking purportedly to the nanny on the phone?
No, sir.
Now, outside of, I'll strike that. Were you aware during this time period that, did the defendant have an automobile?
Excuse me?
Did she have a car?
Yes, sir.
What kind of car did she have?
It was a little white car. I'm not sure exactly what kind of car it was.
During this time period, did you ever ride in that car?
No, sir.
Did you ever get near the car?
No, sir.
Did the defendant ever tell you that she was having any car trouble during this time period?
Just one day when she had broken down around the corner at the Amscott, and Tony had left in the morning to go pick her up. That was the only time that I recall.
Were you home when the defendant called regarding that?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Tony leave to go get her?
Yes, sir.
Were you at home when they came back to your apartment?
Yes, sir.
How long was Tony gone approximately?
Maybe 15, 20 minutes at the most.
When do you have any recollection of them coming home with anything?
No, sir. I don't remember exactly if she came home with anything or not.
So what type of things would the defendant do while in the apartment? Did she cook?
Yes, sir.
Did she clean?
Yes.
This is all relevant. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry?
Yes, sir.
Did she ever do your laundry?
Did she ever do my laundry? No, sir.
Outside of the apartment, did you socialize with the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Where would that be?
Fusion nightclub, mostly on Friday evenings.
What is Fusion Nightclub?
It's a restaurant bar on the eastern side of Orlando, there closer to UCF.
Were there any particular things going on Friday nights there?
Tony and Roy House and a couple of their friends had a production company, an event type company where they go around to various bars and clubs and promote events and just try to get people in the door and everything. So Friday nights they were working at Fusion.
Okay. How many times do you believe that you've been at Fusion with the defendant?
2 or 3 times, maybe.
Can we bring up the...
Objection, Judge. Maybe approach.
Objection to what?
We have full creation.
Well, it's not being published to the jury. You're objecting to the picture?
Yes.
Okay, let's let him look at the picture. I haven't seen it yet, and it's not published to the jury, so let's wait.
Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I can't see it.
Doesn't come to your monitor, sir.
The judge doesn't have
Okay, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, sir. I'm showing you what's been marked for identification BS. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, sir.
What is that a picture of?
That is a picture of myself and Caylee Anthony.
Okay. Do you recall on what date that photograph was taken?
I don't recall the exact date, no, sir.
Okay. Was there ever a time when you were at Fusion with the defendant that she participated in a contest?
Yes, sir.
What type of contest was that?
It was a hot body contest.
We would object and ask for a sidebar on the board.
Okay. Objection sustained unless you can put it in the date.
Well, that's what I was trying to work on, Judge.
Well, you need to work on it
Thank you.
because he just said he doesn't remember dates, so.
The dress that the defendant is wearing, can you see it in that picture?
Yes, sir.
Does that in any way help you determine on what date that picture might have been was taken?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'd been there a couple times with her, and I don't know exactly which date this was, which Friday this was.
Okay. Do you know where that photograph was taken?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where was that photograph taken?
At Fusion.
Was this during the month of June of 2008?
Was
Not relevant.
as to that question, overruled.
We would ask for a sidebar on the board.
Not at this point.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure.
sir?
Was this picture taken in June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does that picture appear to be a true and accurate representation of what you looked like and what the defendant looked like in June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move what's been marked for identification BS into evidence as states number 3, I believe.
Mr. Baez.
You would object to Lopez as well as the board briefs.
Okay.
I think you have further argument on this, that you will should hear.
Okay, you can approach. You may proceed. Objection overruled.
Thank you, Judge. Again, at this time, the state would move what's been previously marked for identification BS into evidence as states number 3.
It would be entered as evidence of a defense objection as states numbered.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, may I publish that
And
vote?
you have a standing objection, Your Honor, on all of these issues, so
Okay. Based upon prior motions, you have a standing objection to this line of photographs. You may publish to the jury.
Thank you. During the times that you were with the defendant at Fusion, how would you describe her demeanor to the jury?
She always seemed like she was having a good time. I mean, she's not an introvert by any means. I mean, she's outgoing personality. She liked to go out and have a good time.
At any time that she was living in your apartment, did you ever see her distraught?
Ever see her what? Excuse me?
Distraught,
No, sir.
depressed,
No, sir.
scared,
No, sir.
angry,
No, sir.
worried?
No, sir.
At any time that you knew Caylee Anthony while she was living with you, did she ever tell you that her daughter was missing,
No, sir.
that her daughter had been kidnapped,
No, sir.
that while you were out at school, she was out looking for her?
No, sir.
Did she ever ask you for help in trying to find her?
No, sir.
Were you present at your apartment on July 15th of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury what you and your roommates were doing in the early evening hours of that night?
The only ones home were me and Anthony Lazaro, and we were playing video games, sitting on the couch waiting for the All-Star game to start that evening.
Who else was home?
It was just me and Tony, and Caylee Anthony was there.
What was the defendant doing while you guys were playing the video games?
I don't exactly remember. She was just, just kind of hanging out here and there, bouncing around. I don't know if she was doing laundry at the time or not, but, she was just there hanging out.
Again, during this time period, was there anything about the defendant's demeanor that gave you any concern whatsoever?
No, sir.
At some point, was there a knock on the door?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury what happened when there was a knock on the door?
When there was first a knock at the door, Caylee Anthony answered the door, and there was a blonde girl there that I did not recognize. At that point, Caylee proceeded to step outside the apartment and close the door for a couple minutes. She returned back to the apartment coming in, followed by, now I know to be her mother, Cindy Anthony, and also with Amy Huizinga.
Without going into any specifics about what was said, did you see the defendant come back into the apartment after she left with the blonde girl?
Yes.
Okay. What happened when she came back in with the blonde girl?
She came back in, and her and Cindy Anthony were in an argument, and Cindy Anthony had asked her to grab her things and to let's go, to which Caylee Anthony had replied that she'll go outside and speak with her, but that she wasn't leaving.
Did she go outside?
Yes, sir.
Did she come back?
No, sir.
After she left with her mother, did you ever see in person Caylee Anthony again?
No, sir.
Did you ever speak with her on the phone again?
No, sir.
At some point, did you meet her brother Lee?
Yes, sir.
Well, tell me how you were feeling when this happened. I mean, She's taken out. What was your thought process?
We were just kind of a little confused at the time. We didn't know what was going on. We just figured, it was something between her and her mother and her roommate, and just left it at that for the time being.
Okay. Were you worried about anything?
No, sir.
At some point, did you meet Lee Anthony?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury approximately how long, I know you weren't looking at a watch, but approximately how long after the defendant had left that you met her brother?
Maybe, if I remember correctly, it was early evening when Casey left. It was probably mid to later evening. I'd say somewhere between 9 and midnight when Lee Anthony came by.
What can you tell the jury about his overall demeanor? What was his state?
Lee at that point had kind of felt bad for us a little bit. He said his sister was known to get into trouble here and there, and that he wished that he had met us prior, so that he could warn us to.
What's the objection? Sustain.
Don't want you to talk about what anybody other than you said.
Okay.
All right. Just asking about general demeanor. Was he nice to you?
Yes, he was, sir.
Did he appear angry?
No, sir.
Did he appear worried?
Yes, sir.
While he was at the apartment, did you give him anything?
He gathered a few of Caylee Anthony's belongings. What exactly, I don't know. If I remember correctly, Tony was the one who helped him gather up some of her belongings.
During this night, were you also visited by law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
How many times?
Twice.
The first time law enforcement came, was that before Lee Anthony came over or after Lee Anthony came?
Before Lee came over.
When the deputy came over, was anything, to your knowledge, given to him?
Yes, sir.
What was given to him?
A cell phone.
Did you give that to law enforcement, or did Tony give it to him?
Anthony Lazaro gave
sorry.
that.
Anthony
Tony
Lazaro.
Lazaro gave that to
All right.
law enforcement.
At that time, did law enforcement question you about anything?
No, sir.
How long was law enforcement there that first time?
5 minutes, just long enough to collect the cell phone and to fill out a receipt form or some sort for it.
And then Lee came over.
Yes, sir.
At a subsequent time, I believe you testified, law enforcement came back.
Yes, sir.
How long after Lee had left did law enforcement come back?
I can't say exactly, maybe an hour or two.
By this time, were you aware, or were you made aware that no one had seen Caylee for an extended period of time?
Yes, sir.
When the police came to your apartment the second time, what did they do while they were there?
They searched the apartment.
Did you have any problem with them searching the apartment?
No, sir.
How long were they there all in all?
Maybe 20, 25 minutes.
Did they take items with them?
I do not recall, sir.
While the defendant was staying with you on a daily basis in June and into July of 2008, did you ever see any article of clothing belonging to Caylee Anthony?
No, sir.
Did you ever see any toys belonging to Caylee Anthony?
No, sir.
Any stuffed animals belonging to Caylee Anthony?
Not that I recall, sir, no.
Thank you. I have no further questions of the witness, Judge. Thank you.
Approximate length of your cross-examination. That's why I'm asking you your approximate length.
Oh, approximate length? 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay? You may proceed.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I don't want to butcher your last name. Can you repeat that for me?
Yes, it's Lezniewicz.
Lezniewicz?
Lezniewicz.
Lezniewicz. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
sir. Mr. Lezniewicz, you saw Caylee how many times?
2 to 3 times approximately.
Okay. Did she appear hungry to you at any time?
No, sir.
Did she look well-fed,
Yes, sir.
well taken care of?
Yes, sir.
Was Casey attentive to her?
Yes, sir.
And did you ever see Casey strike her or yell at her or
No,
treat
sir.
her improperly?
No, sir.
And in fact, in your opinion, she was a good mother, from what you saw. I'll rephrase, Judge.
Uh,
I'll rephrase.
okay, rephrase it.
Now, subsequent to where you are today, you found out, of course, that during that time that Casey was living with you, that Caylee was no longer with us, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, looking back at Casey's behavior, there was absolutely no indication to you that Casey gave you that Caylee was dead.
No, sir.
And there was no signs in any way, shape, or form as far as you and the outside world could see, or as
No,
far
sir.
as you could see, I should say.
No, sir.
Now, Casey's car, where did she park the car when she lived with you?
In the parking lot.
Right next to your car?
Well, I mean, it's random as far as parking spaces go and who gets one, but typically we were all within a few parking spaces of each other. Yes, sir.
Okay. And she didn't park 50 yards away
No, sir.
where no other cars were parked?
No, sir.
Okay. I have no further questions, Judge.
Any other questions of this witness, Mr. George? Okay.
Sorry, Mr. George. Sir, were you present on June 16, 2008 at Casey Anthony's home when Caylee drowned in the pool?
No, sir.
No further questions.
Okay, any other questions of this witness?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, sir, you may stand down. Okay, members of the jury, we're going to take our mid-morning recess. I take it a few of you need to go outside. I guess this is the time you need to go outside. The special recess? For those who know what I'm talking about? Okay, we'll take a 15-minute recess until you finish.